It's time to begin. Good morning. Man, time to begin. I don't even have my game face on. It's time to begin now. Good evening. How's it going, everybody? My name is Stuart Davis. I'm a flawed man of God. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity, give you my perspective, a look through the eyes of my 39 years of being a non-denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination, just in the Word every day, just trying to do it better, just trying to do it better than I have before. Not necessarily better than you or anybody else, but better for me. So if you are somebody who is interested in learning more about Jesus, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here. Hope you get something out of it. Hope you can see glean some insights from me and use this as a springboard to a relationship with God, and whatever very amateur opinions and perspective I can offer you. I hope you're able to get something out of it. If you just like Christian discussions, topics, and want to be part of the community, by all means, this channel is also for you as well. Be part of the chat, both sides. If you're just searching out Jesus, if you are already established in your Christian faith, be part of this chat. We're very small and tight knit right now. Treat it very much like a Sunday school or a Wednesday night study group. So if you have something to add and something to offer, something you want to share, something you just want to discuss, by all means, put it in there. I'll read it and react to it, because while the chat is pretty active, it's not so congested with people that I can't respond to basically what everybody is saying, at least at this time. So welcome to the program. If you like what I have to say here and you want to see more of it, please support the show by liking, subscribing, hitting the notification bell so that you can get updates when I post more, and share it. Share it with friends, family, or anybody else you know who you think might enjoy it or get something out of it. That's what I'd like to see. More outreach and more subscribers, more folks coming in here and offering their 2 cents and getting something out of this. So it's Monday. Woohoo! It's Monday. We've made it. End of the day, and it's been a pretty good day for me. Little hectic as Mondays can be, but just a lot of good things going on, and happy to be here with you guys. Happy to be with you guys, and see that that Nico is here. Today we start David. Yes, Blaine, thank you for coming. You need it. You need to be here, Blaine. You and your cat girl anime perspectives. Y'all, Blaine's got a great channel, especially if you're into talking about any anime TV shows and topics surrounding that. Blaine's a friend of the show, and Blaine's a friend of the show, and I was on there chilling with him Friday evening, even though I didn't have a show Friday because I had some friends over. He invited me on after everybody had left, and I decided to chill out there and be the normie for him, and have a blast. So, like I said, if that's the topic that kind of you find some interest in, he's a good place to go for it. So, I'm sure at some point I'll be back on that show. Nia, you're not late enough. Not late enough. One thing I've learned, because I'm lazy, there's no getting around it. I'm not gonna hide from it. I'm lazy. And I don't put a whole lot of attention into learning how to be a better YouTuber, how to put together a better show, how to do any of these things. I don't put a whole lot of effort in it, but I do listen. And really the only show I really stream on a regular basis is Lost Splaining. But I listen to what Nick says works for him on things. He's successful. He's worth listening to. And so I do kind of a lot of things that he does. I don't get straight into the discussion of the topic today. I give people a few minutes to kind of mosey on in and settle down for this discussion. And again, the why that makes sense is the same thing you would do if we were meeting in person at a church somewhere, or at somebody's house, or at a local restaurant or something, or a local diner or something. You come in, you got some small talk, you get that stuff out of the way, and then you get into the topic at hand. Kind of check in with everybody. I hope you all had a great weekend. I was really happy with the way that Thursday's episode went down. It was. I walked away from that one thinking it was one of my better episodes. So if you haven't got a chance to catch it, please go back and do it. It leads up really well into what we're talking tonight, which is the introduction of David, but we're not going to get into that just now. Finally had another soccer game. Finally had another soccer game for my son, and they won like 9-2. It was a blowout. Son did great. He played the entire game in goalie. Makes me proud. Very aggressive. Lots of kids at that age, they don't know. Kids at that age, they don't really know how to react to a goalie who will come out and charge a shooter or get in the middle of a scrum and just get the ball. And so I think it's an advantage for him. I want him to be as aggressive as possible this year, so he learns what happens if he's too aggressive. And so the first goal they scored against him was on a corner kick. Defense kind of wasn't in place. Didn't do a very good job screening or protecting the ball, and just great pass from the other team and centered the ball. Kid took the shot. My son wasn't going to be able to. If my son saved, it would have been by luck. He just happened to go the right way at the right time. Second goal was on him. Went a little bit to his right. He should have dove for it a little bit, and I just think he kind of froze a little bit. But when you're his age, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's learning. It's learning, and he enjoys it. But it really bothered him. One of his teammates on defense apparently said something to him that was inappropriate. And I'm not going to just go ahead and I'm not going to go in and get into the details behind it, but he got so upset. He came off the field. Now, it was after a goal had been scored, so there was a stoppage in time, but he thought it was inappropriate enough that he came off the field to tell me that somebody had said something to him. Now, I thought it was going to be the other team at first, and so I told him, I was like, don't worry about it. They're losing. They're mad. They're going to say mean things to you. Get back out there. And even if it had been even if I knew it was a teammate of his, I probably would have told him to go back out there anyway. But I told him, I was like, look, we'll talk about it in the car. We'll talk about it on the ride home. It's no sense doing it right now. And what the kid said to him, had got him so upset that he was not even happy that he had a good game, not happy that his team had a pretty decisive victory. And he was really upset that this kid who he thought was a friend, because they're teammates, he just assumes that they're friends, said something very mean and hurtful to him. Now, I kind of scolded him for that. I was like, one, kid doesn't know what he's talking about. Two, who cares what that kid says? You had a great game. And three, don't let other kids' words get to you and get in the way of of you enjoying yourself. And it's very similar to what I say to people that don't let other people's actions get in the way of your salvation, keep you from going to church, keep you from having a relationship with God. Get them out of there. Ignore them, because what they end up being is an obstacle to you. And the same thing with him, and that's the setup to that. So, so we talked about it after the team had broken up already. So it'll be something I have to address afterwards. But the other thing I saw there was the other team's goalie was actually very good. We have some really good forwards. We have really good forwards on our team. And they did some masterful passing. And they got a couple of breakaways, and they're tough. And the goalie made some great saves too. I mean, that's how much we were shooting a lot on goal. Defense and my son were pretty bored in the back for the most part. But he was visibly upset, kind of lashed out at one of my forwards. Kid came over to me and I said, "Don't worry about that. Just be good." And when they lined up, you could tell the goalie he had tears in his eyes. He was upset. He was very emotional, and that made me think a lot about myself. When I played goalie, I hated it, and my son hasn't had to go through a game where you absolutely just get worked. But they happen, and I'm waiting for that to happen to him to see how he reacts and kind of coach him through that. But they went, and I told him, when we were everybody was high-fiving, I told him, I was like, "Look, good gamekeeper." And I went back around and talked to him as he was going over to his family. I came over and said, "Hey, look, you did a really good job. Don't worry about what the score was. You did a good job." Because he had very much taken it on himself, and coach said it's one of his good better players. So it's hard. It's hard, but at the same time, I love beating the teams from Ashland. That's an old rivalry back from when I played soccer. So we went into Ashland, a field that has changed a ton since I last played there, and we beat Ashland's team, as we should. Great team, great weekend otherwise. And then I talked to my son about things, and he felt better about it. But I think he feels better about it because I'm going to be talking to the kid and probably his parents afterwards. I'll probably talk to the parents first about it. But there you go. That was my Sunday afternoon after church. So anyway, let's get into the chat. Alias is here. I think I already greeted you in here, but if I haven't, welcome, Alias. Always good to see you in there. Same thing with you, Neo. You're not late. Nico said you missed that episode. If you get a chance, Nico, definitely check that one out. I really felt good about it. Blaine says we could do a collab show about the manga that has Jesus and Buddha as roommates. We could pick something else. I don't know, Blaine. I'm fine with having you in on some of the Friday chill streams though, just to shoot the breeze. So Blaine said, "Rub mud on your face and don't stop screaming. Kids are very acceptable to intimidation." That's correct, and I tell that to our bigger players, because a lot of times they're slower, better on defense, and we had two players that weren't really hustling a whole. We started that game off slow and actually went down 0-1, and then won the 2-1. We were down, and then we just poured it on. And part of that was because we had 5 substitutions and they had 1. They were a little short staffed. And so I was having us change lines like it was a hockey line. It's like, all right, next line, go in. But it was great. But I tell the bigger guys, I was like, look, you're intimidating. So get in there. When you start running that ball crosses over the half field line and it's heading your way, and you see those forwards heading at you, you run at that ball. They're worried about you. They might not act like it at first, but at the very minimum, in the back of their head, they're like, all right, I know I might be able to beat this guy there, but if he kicks that ball, it might go into my face. It's going to go sailing on the other side. We have a defender with a huge boot. Um, and that's why I said, size, use whatever advantage you have. If you're fast, use your speed. If you've got a powerful leg, use that. If you're big, be intimidating. It's just a game. It's just a game. Nico, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. The old saying, as it is, it does not matter what this person said. It matters the fact that a teammate said it, that you shouldn't be yelling that at your teammates, but we'll get it all straightened out. Porcupine's in the house. How's it going, sir? All right. With that said, there we go. So again, we talked about Saul. We've been talking about Saul past few episodes. How he has not been living up to the expectations probably that the people of Israel have had, but we don't really know that yet because we don't see any unrest. But what we do see are mistakes made in the eyes of God. We've seen Saul make some mistakes in front of his men from a military perspective. Saul's army, his son Jonathan we can go ahead and call him a war hero. He basically took his own initiative, putting his faith in God, and rushed an encampment of Philistines with just him and his armor bearer, and caused such a ruckus. He put the Philistines in a confused tumult and rallied the Israelites into a battle where they just laid waste to the Philistines. Saul got a little ahead of himself, got a little full of himself, and ended up really, really getting on God's bad side to the point where Samuel rebuked him, saying that God has basically washed his hands so much of Saul as king, he is going to pick someone else. Now, they make it kind of sound like in real time God feels like he made a mistake. Don't take it that way. God definitely knew what he was getting with Saul. God knew the example that Saul was going to be. The Israelites asked for a king before he picked Saul. God warned them what they were going to get. They're kind of going to find out what they're going to get a taste of the wrong kind of king, and the capacity of a king that is man as opposed to a king that is God with Saul. Very flawed, and what I usually describe is Saul is not able to recover from his mistakes. He tries sometimes, but it seems like he's just too selfish and too unwilling to humble himself to really make up for his mistakes. And so they just snowball on top one thing on top of the other. And that's really what we see with Saul. And God has already said, I've got another one. Got another king picked out. And this king is going to be the most famous of kings, maybe the most famous of all kings. Maybe the most famous of all kings that are man. And that is King David. King David. But he doesn't start off a king. Starts off from very humble beginnings, more humble than Saul. And Saul came from pretty humble beginnings, somewhat humble beginnings. So let's find out. Let's find out what David's all about. Now, we're only going to do one chapter tonight. So, as I'm used to saying, this is going to be a short stream. This will be shorter probably than normal, because we're only covering the one chapter. Because next chapter is a big one. So, with that said, oh, by the way, hockey going great. Hockey's going great. fact, maybe I'll show it off right now. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. You see that? See that? Let's look at the scoring. That's right. My team name is Four Doors More Scores. And let's do the he's got some points tonight. Guys just got started. He's got a long way to go because that's current score. 197 to 142. Tonight's the last night or tomorrow's the last night. So he's got a lot of making up today to do. We got it. All right. Enough of that. Enough of that. Because I know y'all are bored when I do this, when I talk about the hockeys. But it's my show. No, Nico, I did not. I mean, I'd be interested to see him as a guest. I don't know how much I'd be interested in him making his own content. I mean, look, I hope he's I hope he makes a channel with good information and has good takes, and I hope that that's the case, that he's successful. But as far as my interest in there, I am more curious in just, how he's doing and reacting to things, but not on a regular basis. I ain't got time for that. I barely have time to check in on Blaine's Escape Corner, to support friends of the show and fans of mine. Go into that, or Andrew Wahoo's Twitch channel, different places like that, and just support and check in with those guys. I don't have time for more channels. I just don't. The only other channel I'm really attached to, other than Nick's channel, is Tex Talks BattleTech. It's part of the Black Pants Legion channel, just because I'm a BattleTech fan, and Tex does an excellent job talking about it. And he only updates like once every 3 months or so. So, Neo, right? He needs to learn to grift. I need to learn to grift. I need to learn to grift viewers. So I'm working on it. Kyle can probably has baked in viewers, because he's got his celebrity status. I don't want celebrity status. I just want bringing more people into the show so that they learn more about this. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 16. If you want to know where I'm going from, on the Bible Gateway webpage. It's great. They've got an app for your phone. It's free. You can get it in all different types of translations. It's easy to navigate. Bible Gateway. Highly recommended. The art of the grift is unteachable for boomers. It might be unteachable. It's just something you're born with, Nico. We are reading from the New International Version. I live in the NIV. It's just the version of Bible I've always read from. If you want to read from something else, do what you got to do. Samuel anoints David. The Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king." There we go. All right. First off, Samuel's sad. And don't think that God isn't sad as well. God loves all of us. And even though he knew that Saul was going to go this way, that doesn't mean that God wasn't rooting for him to make the right decisions. But here we go. You can't change the fact that Saul has made the decisions that he's made, and the fact that he's been rejected. So God's basically telling him, look, you need to get up, pick yourself up. I got a new mission for you. Let's get it. Let's go. All right. We live in the present right now. Welcome to the program, Tex and Italian. Glad to have you here. But Samuel said, "How can I go? If Saul hears about it, he will kill me." logical to assume that. The Lord said, "Take a heifer with you and say, 'I have come to sacrifice to the Lord.' Invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what to do. You two are to anoint for me the one I indicate." Samuel did what the Lord said. When he arrived at Bethlehem, the elders of the town trembled when they met him. They asked, "Do you come in peace?" Samuel replied, "Yes, in peace. I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Consecrate yourselves and come to the sacrifice with me." Then he consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited them to the sacrifice. Interesting thing here. I wonder how much news of God's rebuke of Saul had traveled, or if this was something that was private. Samuel is a deeply respected, he is the last judge of Israel. In all appearances, Samuel is the reason that the fact that Samuel did not have a righteous enough heir apparent or protege behind him to impress the people. That is why they asked for him to appoint a king, and they asked for God to give him a king, because they didn't think whoever was going to surpass Samuel was going to be able to do the job. They missed the point, but that's how deeply the people around there revered him. And it seems like he can be a somewhat serious man, and that some serious events have followed in his wake. At least that's how it appears. So they worried when he shows up. Is he coming because Bethlehem has done something wrong? No, he has come in peace. But I want y'all to note. I want y'all to note. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king. He has come to Bethlehem. What do we know about Bethlehem? Any of my more novice viewers know anything? Can y'all guess anything about the significance of Bethlehem? I'll give y'all some time. Nobody says anything, Nico. Just put a guess out there if you don't have anything. Nico, Jesus! Yes! Right? In Bethlehem. Where is Jesus born? In Bethlehem, right? And we'll get into that a little bit more, but I didn't think about that porcupine. But Bethlehem's the real kicker behind that. You're going backwards, porcupine. I was talking about Jesus. When they arrived, Samuel saw Eliab and thought, "Surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord." But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." I know what you were doing, porcupine. Then Jesse called Abinadab and had him pass in front of Samuel. But Samuel said, "The Lord has not chosen this one either." Jesse then had Shammah pass by, but Samuel said, "Nor has the Lord chosen this one." Stop right here for a second. Do the sons of Jesse hear this? Be like, "I'm here to anoint somebody. It's one of your sons." And no, not you. No, wrong. No. A little disheartening. Also, at the same time, kind of maybe a little bit relieving. It's like, oh, good. This sounds really important. Parade of children, not so much, Blaine. Because remember, we'll get there in a second. So he asked Jesse, "Are all these all the?" Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to him, "The Lord has not chosen these." So he asked Jesse, "Are these all the sons you have?" There's still the youngest, Jesse answered. He is tending the sheep. Samuel said for him, we will not sit down until he arrives. So, I mean, well, let's get it. So he sent for him, and he had him brought in. He was glowing with health and had a fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said, rise and anoint him. This is the one. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. Samuel then went to Ramah. And there you go. He's old enough. So Blaine, he's old enough that he's allowed to tend the sheep, but he is the youngest of the group. So the assumption here is that the sons are teenagers or older, and David is just, the youngest of that group. So maybe not a parade of children, but a parade of adolescents and very young adults. David in Saul's service. Now the Spirit of the Lord had departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented him. Saul's attendants said to him, see, an evil spirit from God is tormenting you. Let our Lord commander his servants here. Let our Lord command his servants here to search for someone who can play the lyre. He will play when the evil spirit from God comes on you, and you will feel better. So Saul said to his attendants, find someone who plays well and bring him to me. One of the servants answered, I have seen a son of Jesse of Bethlehem who knows how to play the lyre. He is a brave man and a warrior. He speaks well and is a fine-looking man, and the Lord is with him. Then Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, send me your son David, who is with the sheep. So Jesse took a donkey loaded with bread, a skin of wine, and a young goat, and sent him with his son David to Saul. David came to Saul and entered his service. Saul liked him very much, and David became one of his armor bearers. Then Saul sent word to Jesse, saying, allow David to remain in my service, for I am pleased with him. Whenever the Spirit of God came on Saul, David would take up his lyre and play. Then relief would come to Saul. He would feel better, and the evil spirit would leave him. Blaine, try telling my mom that I'm not a child. Blaine, I can't do that. I can't even tell my parents that I'm not a child. And I'm older than you. Does she call you a child when you're watching cartoons? What exactly is an evil spirit from the Lord, like a devil, evil angel? That's a good question, Nico. I can't give you an exact answer because I just don't know. This is the layman in me coming out. But it seems like whatever it is, whether it's a phantom or something, it is something that it could be just great anxiety, bad dreams, something like that. Whatever it is, it causes great distress in Saul, right? Maybe he's seeing things that nobody else sees, having visions and whatnot. And here's an interesting part. Seeing a son of Jesse of Bethlehem who knows how to play the lyre. He is a brave man and a warrior. He speaks well and is a fine-looking man, and the Lord is with him. So, so we see there that David himself is pretty is old enough. So let's say that the sons of David, or the sons of Jesse, for the most part, are probably very young adults, and David is probably well into his teens, at the least. Nico says, I just find from the Lord part interesting, like the Lord intended to torment Saul. Yes, it does seem, well, again, the Lord is putting things into place the way that he wants them to be put. He wants David in the presence of Saul. And this is how he made it happen. Very much much like the like what happened with Joseph and his dreams. Using an ability or just manipulating events to put a person in a situation he wants them to be. If you think, I have experienced times where I feel like God has manipulated things for me to end up in a place where I've needed to be, my family to be in a place where we've been, our house here, when we bought it. Very much we felt very much we felt the guidance in the hand of God, putting us in a place that we didn't expect to be, and seeing how everything played out. Just some things fit in, they just snap together so well. It's more than coincidence. And I used to be, before some of the things that have happened to me in my life, I used to be very much God was a hands-off God. He had, he had done what needed to be done during biblical times, but about Revelation time, or just after the establishment of the early church, he basically left Christianity and the faith in the hands of mankind, and he really didn't have anything, and really didn't do anything overtly. Blaine says it's an acknowledgement that God has power over demons. Yes, or he can have people. He can command a spirit to do. And here's the footnote here: an evil spirit. The footnote is a harmful spirit. So a harmful spirit. So God had commanded something to some spirit to basically harass him. And Nika says, can the Lord intend evil for people? Thought God was all good. God is all that is good. His actions, that does not mean that there aren't punishments to be made. Remember what we've said. Saul has not been a faithful king. He has made mistakes. He has not properly atoned for them. It seems that God has looked into Saul and seen a man either conflicted on what to do or just more into things for himself. He has been corrupted by power, right? We see this with politicians. A lot of politicians, some get into the game, they're already corrupt, right? They just the intention, all their intentions are bad. They're in it there for selfish reasons or whatever. Saul doesn't, and there are people who genuinely want to change the world who think that being a politician is the best way to do it, and they end up down the road becoming worse off. Saul fits more in line with that. Saul's minding his own business, and God said, "Hey, you're going to be the next king." And Saul seems to be at first the affable guy, and he's pretty humble about it. Why me, of all people? Not like, of course you pick me because I'm the best of these folks. He doesn't take it like that. But you see in Saul a lot of fearfulness, conceit. You can see selfishness. You can see a lot of things, which we see generally one of these flaws in some of the other folks that we've seen in Judges. Fear being a good one for Gideon, right? Uncertainty, anxiety. It's just all this stuff compounds with Saul, and he just can't get out of his own way. Which makes Saul such a microcosm of the Israelites in general, right? We're pulling an Israelite to be king of the Israelites. That's what you wanted, right? So let me give you a typical Israelite and put him in charge. What have we gotten? Someone that's better than perhaps Samuel's sons, who are corrupt and, into bribery and graft and that kind of stuff, but still someone who doesn't have Israel's best interest at heart, has their own best interest at heart. because that's just kind of what they've kind of gotten a taste of that power, and it hasn't gone well for them. So yeah, he's got an evil spirit. So, God doesn't damn Saul at all. He rebukes him at the end and takes away his blessing from Saul to be king. But he doesn't damn him at all. But there are consequences to things, and he uses that consequence to set David up to be in there. And as we're going to find out, that's exactly what, I mean, look, we already know God's had Samuel anoint David. Saul doesn't know about this yet. So, and Blaine's going to put it right here. God is also just. Blaine, you're doing your best job filling in for Nernath. God is also just. Plus, we are in a same but different position with the grace given through Christ's death and resurrection. Right. And what we'll see, Nico, as we go through First and Second Samuel, we will see more of this behavior from Saul. Like I said, it just compounds on itself. But let Saul be a good example for somebody who could have gotten themselves back on the right track. They didn't. They continued, they let their sin get the better of them. And not to say that they sinned, but the fact that because Saul kind of just quits, kind of just says, well, God's rebuked me, or I did this wrong, so I guess I'll just do whatever I want now because, I guess I'm just a slave to my sin. I'm gonna enjoy the ride down as much as I can. I don't know. I kind of have empathy for Saul. I feel bad a little. Yeah, that's fine. Saul's relatable. Look, Saul makes mistakes. There's no getting and we're criticizing him, but Saul's a relatable character, right? Saul's a relatable guy because we can't just say, "Oh yeah, I would definitely be much more righteous than Saul if I got put in that position." No, Saul got yanked into this and put up there, and he falls, right? He's still up there, but no, it's okay to having empathy for Saul is completely understandable. It's easy. In fact, I think I like that better because it's easy to to find contempt with Saul. It's harder to find empathy. But when you find empathy for Saul, you understand more along the lines. God doesn't hate Saul, right? He hates the decisions that Saul makes. And these decisions that Saul makes can be a point for us to learn from. Relatable, and we all have a friend like Saul. We all know a leader or a politician or a coworker like Saul. Have you had somebody you've worked with who once they got promoted, and once they got promoted, then they started and they were cool and they were somebody you liked and somebody you found honorable for the most part, maybe a friend, and then they got promoted and they let all that stuff go to their head. Boom. Yeah, I can't imagine having the responsibility of being the first king of mankind. Slow down, Nico. He's the first appointed king that matters, but the first king decided by God of mankind. We've had kings before that. And that's the whole reason why the Israelites were, look, Johnny down the street's got a new bike. Why can't I have a new bike? The same thing. Look, the Philistines have a king. Oh, look, Moab has a king. Oh, look, we want a king too. Why? That's the whole thing. But the weight, regardless of that, Nico, I get where you're driving at, and what you say is significant. The weight and responsibility of being chosen by God to lead God's chosen people. And God probably intentionally picked somebody he knew was going to stumble and wouldn't be able to handle it, as kind of a illustration of why Israel shouldn't have asked for that king in the first place. Unfortunately, it seems somebody had to bear the weight of Israel's sin in that, in Israel's mistake. And Saul bears the brunt of it. So, empathy for Saul, entirely appropriate. While at the same time recognizing that Saul did deliberately make the mistakes that he made. This wasn't something, nobody forced Saul to do these things. Saul just reverted to type. And Saul just fell to these things. He's not the last one. And look, David's going to screw up too. But what I want you to do is look at the difference between how Saul handled his mistakes and how David handles his mistakes. And from there, you will see what the man of the world does when he screws up and what a man of God does when he screws up. And that therein lies, to me, the best comparison and contrasting of those two. And I think it's very good that we see it in the beginning. We see mistakes and failure in the beginning, and maybe some mistakes and failure followed up with what you should do. And there you go. So that's where we're at. David has played a secret chord, and it pleased the Lord enough that he settles the tormentors of Saul, and he has entered the service of the King of Israel. And we will see what else is in store for our young David, anointed somewhat secretly to be the next king of Israel. Blaine's escape. I'm ready for this because I'm forgetting if David's failures are bigger or if they are just more well known. From what we've seen from Saul so far, David's failures are David's main failure is much bigger, in my opinion. It just is. And it is more well known. And there's a lot of false accusations that fly around today because patriarchy and a lot of the deconstructionists and a lot of the egalitarians try to run and make David's sin more than what it is when it's egregious enough on its own. It's egregious enough on its own. So, but Saul is a lot like a death from 1,000 cuts. Just one mistake, another mistake, another mistake, another mistake. He just can't get out of his way. It's almost like he's like a gaff machine. And I don't know, maybe that there is a political leader, maybe a president in recent memory who just makes mistake after mistake, says things that are just nonsensical. Don't know. Eats a lot of ice cream, which I'm probably going to do after the show is over. Israel is going to learn how complicated things can be. And Blaine, it's going to be a little while before we see David really ascend to his to where God intends for him to be. There is a journey that he needs to take, and a lot of interesting things will happen, and some sorrows as well. And Nico, this is not going to be the last time you have empathy for Saul. It's not. Saul is a tragic story. And I can only hope that Saul somehow found redemption with God and made his way to heaven. But we'll get there. We'll see where we land. Porcupine said it's 30 degrees in Wisconsin currently. No more ice cream until May. Oof, I don't like where this will go for Saul. Nico is. It's not a. Look, here's the thing. We're entering a part of the Bible. Well, we've been in a part of the Bible because we've had some tragic stories in Judges. But for the most part, it's just been the Israelites disappointing us. We get in Kings and Chronicles. We don't see really into the heart and into the soul of some of those folks like we see from Dave, like we do with David and Saul and Solomon, who's coming up eventually. But there's going to be some more evil deeds, and it is not a good place to be in Israel during these times. Israel has times of peace and prosperity throughout Judges, obviously with Joshua, mixed in with some bad times, right? Because that's going through waves. We're kind of mid right now with Saul. David and Solomon, good. And then it's going to be mostly this way. For Israel, it's going to be this way. For Judah, there will be for the territory of Judah, it's going to be a few ups and downs. There's going to be a few ups, but mostly downs. Yeah, we're going to make some jokes about Saul and his spear arm. Saul's an idiot on that. Failure. Absolute failure. All right. So, like I said, hope you all had a great weekend. Glad we're starting out on a good step. We've got some good content in the Bible coming up. Some real great narrative to go over. David and Saul, the relationship between them. Jonathan as well is going to be in here. It's going to be very compelling narrative. This is one of the reasons why reading the Old Testament is so fun. It is very much, your Genesis stories, some of your stories in Exodus, some of the things that happen in between here and the books of prophecy. There's a lot of rich content, and we'll break that up with Psalms and Proverbs, which is just a different flavor of live streaming content, and I'm very interested to see how those are going to go. But for here, just enjoy the ride that is 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. All right, there's going to be some more as well, but these 6 books, enjoy it. Kings and Chronicles are a little bit. It's going to be some repetition, but it's very much worthwhile, and it is a big piece of meat when you're talking about accounts in the Bible to really learn from and really understand the history of Israel and why they end up where they do. All right. So again, hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you're all safe. Glad you came in. Nico, Blaine, Porcupine, Neo, Texan Italian. Saw Alias in. Yeah, Alias is in here. Glad you guys came in. Glad you guys had something to share. Glad you just said hi. And hey, like Blaine said, he'll be streaming later on this evening, 7 p.m. left coast time. So without further ado, I'll see if I can get a guest on this week. We'll see. But in the meantime, everybody, have a good night and God bless.